Let's talk about the 2028 Democratic primary, which is shaping up to be one of the most highly anticipated political contests in modern history. As of Thursday, May 1st, there is no clear frontrunner. Only 3 potential candidates are currently given better than a 10% chance of winning the nomination: California Governor Gavin Newsom, New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. 5 additional candidates are in that 5 to 10% range, including many familiar names, while anyone else you might think of clocks in at under 5%. In short, we don't have anything close to a true favorite at this point in time. If you were going purely by the polling, you might be inclined to say Kamala Harris, the former vice president and 2024 Democratic nominee, is the frontrunner since she consistently leads early surveys measuring public opinion on likely candidates. But much of that can be attributed to the fact that Harris was literally just the nominee less than 6 months ago and carries near universal name recognition within the party. Her favorability among Democrats remains strong, particularly among those who credit her with stepping in at the last minute to salvage the ticket after Biden's late withdrawal. There are many within the party who believe Harris did the best she could with what she was given, that Biden had already tanked nearly any shot Democrats had of beating Trump. And I tend to agree, though for what it's worth, I also don't think more time would have necessarily changed the outcome. Anyway, for all those reasons, it's understandable that many within the party still see Kamala Harris as the most natural pick, and that's certainly reflected in early polling. Yet when you turn to the prediction markets, you'll see a completely different story. Harris is sitting at just 5% below Stephen A. Smith. So, what explains that discrepancy? Well, for starters, Harris has yet to prove herself as a strong primary candidate. There was no primary in 2024. She was handed the nomination after Biden stepped aside. And we can't forget what happened back in 2020 when she entered the race with all the momentum and media backing in the world, only to fizzle out months before the Iowa caucuses. It's also important to note that her lead in these early polls isn't all that commanding. According to Race to the White House's running average, Harris is polling at just around 27%, nowhere near a majority of primary voters. And this is supposed to be her peak moment. Again, she was just the nominee 6 months ago. In fact, her numbers right now are lower than where Joe Biden was polling in the early stages of the 2019 cycle. And while Biden ultimately won that primary, there was a point after the first few contests in Iowa, New Hampshire, and Nevada when it looked like he might not even finish in the top 3 or 4. Of course, everything changed after that key endorsement from Jim Clyburn helped him dominate in South Carolina, especially among black voters, and then every major moderate dropped out to endorse him against Bernie Sanders. The point is, if Harris does run, her numbers will almost certainly dip at some point, and unlike Biden, I don't think she has the same level of institutional support behind her. There will also be questions about her electability, especially coming off a loss in the previous election. And remember, it was electability that ultimately won Biden the 2020 nomination. Right behind Harris in these early polls is often Pete Buttigieg, Biden's former transportation secretary, who rose to national fame during the 2020 primaries as Mayor Pete, when he came out of nowhere to win the Iowa caucuses. Alongside Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, currently polling in third, these two are clearly the Democrats' strongest in terms of online presence. Ocasio-Cortez commands a massive Twitter following, and clips of Buttigieg speaking often draw millions of views across social platforms. It should come as no surprise then that AOC and Buttigieg, along with Harris, rank as the most popular Democrats in terms of net favorability. That is, the difference between those who view them favorably versus unfavorably. According to a recent Yale Youth poll, which surveyed 2,000 Democratic primary voters of all ages, AOC comes out on top, with 75% holding a favorable view of her compared to just 13% unfavorable. Kamala Harris comes in second with a net favorability rating of 59.4%, and Buttigieg follows in third at 49.5%. So, given those numbers, it's not surprising to see them near the top of early polling. That said, it's actually Gavin Newsom who currently has the best odds of winning the nomination, albeit just 13%, with Josh Shapiro in third at 10%. Yet neither Newsom nor Shapiro is polling above 7% in these early national surveys. Their odds are inflated right now by the expectation that they will run, and that they're likely to rack up major endorsements and fundraising early on, whereas the top three, Harris, AOC, and Buttigieg, are each, to varying degrees, question marks when it comes to whether they'll actually enter the race. Harris, for example, may instead run for California governor in 2026 to succeed Newsom. AOC just turned 35 and may be viewed as too young, with a more natural lane opening up for her in a future cycle. Another reason why Newsom may be on top right now is that he's currently the governor of California, which votes early on the primary calendar as part of Super Tuesday and carries a massive delegate haul, almost double any other state. It also happens to be the only state where we have a state-level Democratic primary poll, and Newsom leads there with 27%. With all of that said, there's also a very real chance that none of the candidates we've talked about ends up as the favorite by the time we hit 2027. After all, 3 years out from 2008, barely anyone outside of politics even knew who Barack Obama was. And the idea of Donald Trump as a serious presidential contender, it was literally laughed at, even after he started polling well in the 2016 Republican primary. So names like Stephen A. Smith, Wes Moore, Andy Beshear, or even Mark Cuban shouldn't be written off just yet. Personally, I think Wes Moore, the governor of Maryland, is a very compelling dark horse in this field, and Andy Beshear is clearly gaining momentum within the more moderate, pragmatic wing of the party, especially among those looking for a younger face. But to be honest, even if you gave me $100 and told me to bet it on just one candidate, I genuinely wouldn't know where to put it. Maybe I'd sprinkle it across a few names, like Shapiro and Moore, who I happen to believe are two of the strongest candidates Democrats could put forward. Or maybe I'd go full wild card and throw it all on someone like talk show host Jon Stewart. Your guess is as good as mine right now, and that's what makes this so interesting. I'm definitely looking forward to more polls and developments over the next few months and years. I'd bet that this market looks completely different even 1 year from now, let alone 3. There are even a few names not on the radar right now, not even listed as an option here on the market, that could absolutely find themselves firmly in the mix over time. Think Senator Ruben Gallego of Arizona, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey, Georgia Senator Jon Ossoff, if he can survive next year's re-election bid, or maybe even Abigail Spanberger, the Democratic candidate for governor of Virginia, assuming she wins this November. But that just about does it for me. As always, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments and let me know what other videos or topics you'd like to see me cover next. That's it for today's video. Shout out to my channel members listed in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed the content. Check out more of my videos right here. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. EP out.